And there's this thing, a cognitive bias called Parkinson's law, which says if you set an amount of time to do something, it's going to take you that amount of time to do it.
Mhm.
If you schedule an hour meeting, guess what? You're going to be on that call for an hour, even if you don't need it.
Yep. Hello and welcome to Pillars of Wealth Creation, where we talk about creating financial success with a special focus on business and real estate. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. Now, let's get to it. Hey, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer, and with me, excited to have Chris Dyer. Chris, how are you doing today?
Doing awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we appreciate you jumping on the show. And excited to have you, Chris, on. He's a speaker, consultant. Chris has been recognized just as a company culture and remote work expert. Former CEO, managing thousands of people. His companies very consistently were named best places to work. And, they've also been named fastest growing companies by Inc. magazine 5 times, just got a wealth of knowledge. And so now Chris has taken that. He's a speaker, he's a consultant, he's working with other companies to talk about, basically helping company culture and helping companies grow faster. So Chris, give our listeners a bit more about your background and then we'll dive in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I've always, from very early age of the lemonade stand and trying to be first at whatever you were selling at school for the school fundraiser. I mean, that's kind of been who I always been. And I became kind of an accidental speaker and an accidental author. People asked me to come and do those things, and I love to say yes to opportunities. And so I was like, sure, I'll try that. And it worked out. So I've just kind of eventually I got so busy with the speaking and the writing and all of that that I kind of sold my companies. It was a good time to sell as well. And I've really been focusing on, the larger impacts at conferences and events, working with companies, and then, sometimes going in and doing really strategic consulting around culture, around sales and marketing, to really help organize. And what's really interesting is culture has such a huge impact on your sales. And so people often don't think about it that way. They think about culture like making their people happy,
Mm,
but culture has this huge impact on how much we sell, how much profit we make, um, and how well we keep our clients. It has so much to do with the revenue, the wealth, everything that comes out of those businesses.
mm. Yeah, it's amazing what we've seen in our, just in our companies is when the culture is not good. And we've acquired some companies where the culture just was terrible.
Yeah.
And just looking at that versus and it takes a while. It's you like every time we buy it, it's like buy a company, it's like, oh, it's going to happen overnight, right? It doesn't. It takes a long time to get the culture moving in the right direction. So, but it's a huge difference. So what what did you do to get culture the way that you wanted? Like, there's got to be a couple strategies that you utilized that were really successful in getting your company culture headed in the right direction?
Well, early on when I decided that culture needed to be kind of fixed, we needed to really be intentional about it. It was about figuring out, well, what does that mean?
Mm,
What is a good culture?
yeah.
And what I found was that there were a lot of books and a lot of opinions out there. And if you think about this as like as a ladder, right? They were a step or two down the ladder than where I wanted to be. They were talking about the specific things. And so I needed to figure out, well, I wanted to go a step above that or 2 steps above on that ladder. And ultimately, I ended up having to write my books around that because I've kind of felt like I have 7 pillars that I have picked up on. We've been able to study and reproduce that we know every great culture is really good at these 7 things. But most of what I was being kind of impacted by or seeing in the marketplace was maybe just one of these pillars, right? If you look at a lot of the, I look at Jack Stack's book, Great Game of Business. That whole book is about being transparent, about how transparency really helps businesses. That's one of my pillars. So I had to kind of go up in a level from a strategy standpoint and say, how do we actually approach culture at the very highest levels, figure out what those things are, and then we can start attacking them tactically and come up with strategies and ways to make it better. But for me, I needed to understand at the highest level what's the most important things that we actually need to focus on. And also conversely, what don't we need to focus on? What should we be ignoring?
Hmm.
That's just a waste of time and energy and is, society has told us is important, but is not important and, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. What are some of those things that society tells us that are important that you think it's just not important? Like we shouldn't be focusing on this in the company.
So there's two big things we discovered. One was that you should be worried about your weaknesses, that you should be trying to get better at the things that you're not good at. Society tells us we should be working on our weaknesses.
Yeah.
In business, you should be ignoring that. You should be focusing on what you're good at or what you're strong at. That doesn't mean you can't go learn something new or get better at something, but like if you're really bad, your handwriting is really bad, are you going to go spend all of your time trying to make your handwriting better? Or maybe you're just not the person to take notes. And maybe but you're really, really good at talking to the client. So like, is it worth your time and energy to focus on that weakness? I know that's a silly example, but like
Yeah.
we spend so much time telling people, oh, you got to work on this, you're not good at this. No. What are you really good at? Go do more of that,
Hmm.
please. And anytime someone asks you to do a task or a thing that you're not good at, that is inherently just not a part of what makes you happy and makes you excited, find somebody else in the company who is excited about that.
Yeah.
I hate accounting.
Yeah.
Okay. I can do it. I'm good at it. I hate it.
Yeah.
Why would I want to get better at it when I can go hire someone who loves accounting, who loves to do that? That's like their joy in life is to bookkeep and make things every dot, every I dotted and every T crossed and every penny accounted for. That's like it's heaven for them. I don't want to do that,
It's
right? And
funny. It's funny you use that example because that's like the perfect example that I use all the time is like my bookkeeper. The first I hired this bookkeeper and I'm like talking to her and I remember saying something like, "Oh, I'm sorry, this is so much work." And she's like, "I love this. This is
yeah,
so fun for me." And I'm like, "Oh,
and you're
that's
like,
amazing." And
okay,
so yeah,
right,
as I like walk away, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like I hate doing this. I can do it. Like I'm the same thing. Like I could do it, but I
right.
hated it. She loves it. So it's like, oh my gosh, like
We
exactly
all
what I
end
was.
up doing things that we aren't our high passion or aren't perfectly aligned. But as much as we can uncouple ourselves from those things,
Yeah.
because to your point, there are other people sitting right next to you in the cubicle right next to that's like, I would love to do that. And you're like, cool. What thing do you hate doing? And they're like, oh, I hate calling clients. I love to call the clients. And
Hmm.
let's just switch these out. We talk to the boss, whatever. It's so amazing when we think about how do we do more of what we're good at.
Yeah.
So society is always telling us to get better. Now, in your personal life, yeah, maybe you should work on some of your weaknesses, or your spouse is going to leave you. You're not going to have very many friends. I mean, there are differences when you're talking about your personal stuff, right? If you have a really bad temper, maybe you should work on that. But like in business, don't think about strengths and weaknesses the same way. The second area is how meetings work. Society tells us you're supposed to have one-on-one meetings. I will tell you the best leaders and the best companies don't have consistent one-on-one meetings. That is a lie. That is a lie that like middle managers and the little cubicle farm people want you to believe that we need to sit and have these every Monday we have a meeting at 9 a.m. because I'm your boss and it's a complete waste of time. It stalls decisions being made. It actually slows your company down. It puts you as the leader or you as the employee in this position of like only one other person is worried about your trajectory in the company. Only one other person is there to help you make decisions. And that's a terrible way to run a company. Now, if I need to meet with my boss, should I? Of course. I'm saying nobody actually does. Nobody successful consistently does hey, I have 40 direct reports. I'm going to meet with them all once a week for an hour and I'm going to coach them. No, it doesn't work that way
Yeah.
because either they lie and say they're going to do it and they cancel all the time, or they gotten smart and they don't do it anymore. But there's a middle ground. What we need to do is replace that behavior with How does the team operate? So let's say you're a leader and you've got 20 people. Can you go meet with four groups of five? Meet with five people once a week, and that group helps each other with their goals. They all know each other's goals. We're all helping each other. We're all coaching each other. We're all there for each other. It's not my sole responsibility as your boss to help you reach your goals and all that stuff. It's the team's job. We're all helping each other. And when the team's successful, the department's successful, the company's successful. And isn't that what we want?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And so getting out of that mode. And so what ends up happening is, well, now I can get my decision. If I need a decision made, I can get to the right person. I can get to my team. I can figure that out. Not, I have to wait until Monday at 9 because that's when I get to talk to my boss. And that's when I get to talk and ask questions. And that's when I get to hopefully get a decision so I get unstuck.
Hmm. Yeah. No, that's smart. And I love the group putting together like that, or team that you call it. Um and meetings just for meeting's sake. It's just never productive. And meetings are tough. Meetings are tough to be productive no matter how you do it. Um is there any secrets behind doing that, like meetings and how you schedule meetings or how you run meetings? Because those are really tough to be effective.
Absolutely. So it does depend if you're like remote, if you're hybrid, if you're in the
Yeah.
office. I can give you examples for all, but I created these different meeting types. So one of the biggest challenges we saw was that people were having the same meeting over and over and over again. They kept scheduling a 30-minute meeting or scheduling a 1 hour meeting, and it was the same thing. It's like being stuck in that movie Groundhog Day. Like it was like the same thing over and over and over again. And there's this thing, a cognitive bias called Parkinson's law, which says if you set an amount of time to do something, it's going to take you that amount of time to do it.
Mhm.
If you schedule an hour meeting, guess what? You're going to be on that call for an hour, even if you don't need it.
Yep.
So our different meetings were different lengths, different focuses. We also had the goal, you always start on time, and the secondary goal of we always end early. So just because we're on a 30-minute meeting does not mean we're having a 30-minute meeting. Our goal, stated goal at the beginning of the meeting was, okay, what's the agenda? What we're going to talk about? And hey guys, we're going to end early. Our goal here today is to not go the whole 30 minutes. Sometimes we have to. But if everyone is on the same page of like, how do we be effective and how do we go quickly? How do we be efficient in our communication? And we can finish this meeting in 15 minutes or 20 minutes. You add up all that extra time you're getting back during the day and how much more time you have to do your job and to be productive or to sit and think about how to problem solve, how to like dream up a new solution.
Yep.
Because I know leaders that tell me I'm on 10, 12 back-to-back meetings all day long. I have no time to do my work. I have to literally like schedule time or I have to do my work at home because I'm on so many meetings.
Yeah.
And when I tell them to remove those one-on-ones, they're like, it's so freeing to them that they can replace 10 1 hour blocks of one-on-ones with, 2 or 3 team meetings. It's just they get so much time back. So we had cockroach meetings, ostrich meetings, tiger team meetings, tsunami planning meetings. I'd give you a quick example. Cockroach meeting, 15 minutes, one problem only. Anybody can call it, optional to attend. So if you're like, hey, client called me, they want to do this thing, I got no idea how to like put in Slack, send out an email, whoever can meet at 1 o'clock. I got this problem, who can help me? And
Hmm.
but it's optional to show
It's
up. If I'm
optional.
like,
I like it.
well, you know what? Chris needs me. But I can't do it. I already have a call at that time. Fine. But what ends up happening is like 1 or 2 people show up who actually know how to solve the problem.
Yep.
1 or 2 people show up because they want to know the answer, right? They want to learn and they want to know the answer to this too. They're curious. And so you're moving information around. But our average, we had like 30 to 40 cockroach meetings a day, and they would average about 8 minutes.
Hmm.
Just think about the power of you as all your employees are suddenly able to get their answer to a problem fixed in 8 minutes
Yeah.
right away.
Yeah.
They're not Googling stuff for hours. They're not picking up the phone and calling 15 people in the company and trying to get 15 different opinions and trying to figure it out. The amount of resources that is saved, time, energy, and resources that is saved by just allowing that person the ability to say, I need help, show up, get the help done. Even if it took all 15 minutes, fine. And then we get off and they're done. And sometimes it's just like, well, the answer to your solution is go call Todd because he's got the password to that thing. He's the only one that can help you. Okay, cool. Now I know very quickly I have to call. I know who to call, what to do,
Yep.
and I'm set.
Yep. I love that. That's a great meeting option to have for your company for sure. You talking about the pillars of culture that you have. Let's go through some of those pillars. We can either go through all of them or we can go through a couple of them. Really up to you. I'll let you lead that. But what are some of these important pillars of culture?
So here, I'll list the seven for you, and then maybe you tell me if there's one or two or whatever that you think are interesting for your audience. In no particular order: transparency, positivity or positive leadership, listening, mistakes, recognition, measurement. Those are the seven. So I don't know if any of those kind of jumped out at you. You want me to kind of dive into?
Let's talk about mistakes.
Yeah.
I think that's a really interesting one.
So the best organizations know how to leverage and ensure that mistakes are brought forward in a positive manner. So, quick definition, mistakes are I'm trying to do my best, I'm trying to do the right thing. Based on what I knew, I thought this was the right thing, whatever. An error is I wasn't trained properly, I don't care, I'm apathetic, I haven't slept in 3 days and showed up to work and just doing all the wrong thing. Errors we do not tolerate. That's not good, right? If I go out at lunch and I have 5 beers and a martini and I come back and I run the forklift into the wall, like that's not a mistake, that's an error. Like I
Yeah.
did something wrong there,
Yeah.
okay? Um, but mistakes though, a lot of times we put the same energy on them as we do errors, and so people now are afraid to try anything, and now they won't make a decision because they're going to get yelled and screamed at if it's the wrong one. Instead, if the employee is trying to do the right thing, we want to celebrate them. We want to say thank you for doing that. We can retrain, we can help them understand how to do it better next time. But if you look at some of the best business methodologies, Scrum and Agile, Lean, Six Sigma, they've all got something in place where we come together. In Scrum and Agile, it's called the retrospective. After you do a week sprint, you come together and say, what did we do well? Where could we have done better? What
Hmm.
changes can we make? And we would say, I thought I could get this much. I made a mistake over here. Okay, cool. How do we do that better next week? No one's saying, oh, Todd, you screwed up the whole week. You didn't get this done right. You made him. No one's yelling, getting mad at you, right? There's an institutional process of like, how are we actually going to get better? How do we all work together to get incrementally better and faster every single week as we build this thing or do this project or try to build sales or whatever it is? And we know we're going to screw up and we want to talk about it so that we can get better. So we put light on mistakes as a positive. Um, there's some really famous examples of this. That probably the easiest one for people to understand is 3M documents every single. They've been doing this since like the 30s. They document every single mistake, every single
Oh,
experiment that
wow.
doesn't go right. Do you know the most famous product from 3M is the Post-it note? And do you know why? That was a mistake. Some scientists made the world's crappiest glue. Did they fire that scientist? No, they wrote it down. They kept track of it. They eventually put it in a database. And years later, another scientist said, I could really use a glue that doesn't stick permanently. So I can put on the back of my hymnal at choir practice and it would stick, but then I can take that paper with me later. He looked in the database and found the world's crappiest glue, put it on the back of there, and now we had the Post-it note.
Yeah. And most companies would have just said, this is garbage. Let's throw this away.
Right
We know
away.
not to do this again, but that they're not thinking like that. They don't
Right.
have a database. That's
Right.
amazing. I've heard that story that the post-it note was an accident. The glue was an accident. I didn't hear like the details that you've said, but that's great. Um, how about how do you use transparency without it maybe causing problems? You want transparency certainly, but do you want everybody to know everything? Like how do you use transparency?
So everyone always has this gut reaction of like,
Right.
well, is there too much I can tell them? And there are always boundaries on what people can know. There is HR stuff, there's confidentiality things, there's
Yep.
maybe proprietary. I mean, you know where those boundaries are. But inside of that, I would tell you, you should tell everyone everything you possibly can about everything. That really there isn't too much. There are examples of companies even telling everybody what everybody makes and being totally transparent about what everybody makes. I mean, you can go find out what your kid's teacher is making right now and go on a website and it tells you
Yeah.
exactly what every single government employee makes. I mean, we know there's a lot of transparency in places. Everyone always worries, well, if I tell everyone what our sales were, if I tell everyone what our P&L looks like, that they're all going to ask me for a raise, or if things aren't going well, they're going to quit. I've never once in any company I've ever had, ever worked with where we've done that, has ever happened.
Hmm.
Instead, people understand how we're making money and they help us go make more. They understand where we spend our money and they figured out how to save us money. They see the trends in the business and they understand we're making money now, but maybe there's a part of the year where we lose money and they understand that. And how do we balance that? Or, and it's up to the company to say, to be open and honest of like, hey, we make this amount of profit and it goes to this, or we capitalize it this way, or we're investing in this, or we're bringing on more people. Or guess what? I mean, the owners really enjoy their yacht and that's just how it is. Like, but you're being open and honest, people are able to understand how to help more. They're able to create better questions, better solutions, better answers to what's going on when they truly understand how things work, why things work, what is the mechanisms to get things done or not done. I keep thinking I had this great idea, and I look at our P&L like we got really tight margins. Like, of course, the boss doesn't want to go invest in this giant thing. Like we're kind of sitting right at 2%, 3% profit or something. Like, yeah, they're not going to want to go do this giant thing.
Yeah.
Profits are 80%. Okay, yeah, maybe they would do an experiment with something. So it really gives the context for people. Now, we did it at a high level of like we gave people our P&L summary every single month. We told them what our sales were. We told them what our goals were. We talked about it on a call every single month so that people could really be invested and understand what we were doing. But sometimes it was the micro of we just need leaders to just spend that 5 extra minutes explaining why a decision was made, giving everyone a little bit more detail and context about what happened so that they don't fill in the gaps themselves.
Yep. Yeah.
The,
A mind that doesn't know is going to be a mind that just starts to make decisions or assumes on its own, right?
when we don't know the part of the story, we fill in those
Yep.
gaps with our negative past experiences,
Yep.
not our positive ones, our negative ones. So if you were my boss and you and I have a great relationship, and all of a sudden this week, this whole week, every time you come in the office, you're short with me, you don't talk to me, you're not looking me in the eyes, you seem like you're upset. And my past experience is, well, the last time this happened, a bunch of people got laid off,
Mm-hmm.
or I got fired,
I
or
got
whatever
fired
that
or
thing is.
yeah.
And but if you just would have said, "Hey, everyone," like, or if I would have said, "Hey, is everything okay? You're doing good?" And maybe you might say, "I've been fighting with my wife.
Yeah.
Like my wife, like where I'm having a lot of problems at home, or just found out my mom got diagnosed with cancer. She's not doing like, oh." okay, there's new information here. You're not mad. It has nothing to do with me,
Yep.
right? But that's a
Yep.
piece of information. So it could be that just that little extra context helps employees understand why and lowers their anxiety about what could be happening.
Oh, no, that makes a lot of sense. Last one I want to hit on is listening. As a CEO, how do you implement, good listening? That one's really tough sometimes, especially
Yeah.
because you're in charge as the CEO. Some CEOs really want to tell people what to do. They don't want to listen.
Well, and it's fine to be very descriptive and intentional about what you want people to do. There's nothing wrong with that. But we do have to have the mechanisms of listening. So the listening pillar comes in several ways. One, are we listening to our clients? How are
Hmm.
we hearing from them and understanding what their needs are, what they're seeing in the marketplace? And sometimes our clients don't know what they don't know. I mean, Henry Ford was really famous for saying some version of if I would have asked my people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse or something like that, right?
Yeah.
They didn't
Yeah.
know they wanted a car yet. Um, and so that's the visionary CEOs have to go into that world. But when you're talking about like listening to our clients, do they feel heard? Do they feel like we understand them? That's a relationship there. Then the same thing with our employees. Really simple way that you can do this on the employee level. Ditch the annual survey. It's stupid and it sucks and no one likes it and it's not serving you. So get rid of it right now. Because like you read that and you actually do anything. Like you
Yeah.
don't. It takes you
Yeah.
so long. And anyway, I replaced it with, and you can do if you're a smaller company, you can do this as the CEO. If you're a larger company, you might want to do this by department or by senior leader. We had everyone answer one question every week.
Hmm.
So it might be, what's your biggest struggle? What resource do you wish you had? What client's driving you crazy? Who at the company has been like killing it for you and we should be recognizing? What do you wish you knew about the company? How are we screwing up? What am I as the CEO doing to get in your way? I mean, these are all like types of questions I could ask and people would come back with answers. So I would ask the question on Wednesday. And by Tuesday of the next week, I went back to everyone and said, this is what I heard, and this is what we're doing about it. Now, sometimes I would say, all answers are totally confidential. In fact, I don't want you to tell me who you are. I want it to be totally confidential because I might ask them tough stuff that they're not
Yeah. Yeah.
comfortable
They
putting their
wouldn't
name
say,
in.
they wouldn't tell you otherwise, right?
Right. And then other times I tell them, listen, I'm sharing everyone's answers with everybody. So
Yeah.
when you answer this, just so you know, I'm going to take a spreadsheet and I'm going to send it to the whole company. Because I would ask things like, who's killing it for you? Who's doing an amazing job? Like, who should we be recognizing? It's amazing if you saw your name in there from all your coworkers and stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's a really nice thing. And I'm not gatekeeping it. They don't feel like I'm only celebrating the people I like or whatever.
Yeah.
Like no, look, this is what the company said. Tom and Janie and whoever like that, they're clearly, and here's what we're gonna do. We bought them a getaway for them and their spouse to go away for the weekend.
Yeah.
Like we did this special thing for them. So collect the data. Here's what I heard, and here's what I'm going to do about it. Every week, you're making some meaningful impact to the company, and your employees feel heard. They feel like you're really going to listen to them. You're really going to do something with that information. And so we had, once we got going, 95% of all employees answered that question every single week.
Is that question like sent out through an email or anonymous? Like, how are you sending that out? Or is it, it's not one on one?
I use Google Forms because
Yeah.
that didn't have a tracking feature in it.
Like it.
Like SurveyMonkey, you can technically track who has and has not. It's hard, you can honestly see the response, but like I wanted them to feel like I was totally, you
Yeah.
know, just anonymous with it. I didn't care what who was. I mean, sometimes I would, like I said, share the information, but again, I didn't ask them to put their name on it if they didn't want to. Um, and so if anyone's interested in doing this, I'm happy if you want to text 33777 and put my name Chris as the message, I will send you a list of 25 starter questions for that one question survey if you're interested in doing that. It is a
Love it.
fantastic way, even if you have a small team, right? I mean, if you only had 5 people, it's kind of hard because you kind of know who says what. But even if you have a small company of 20 people or something, you do one question a week, like you will discover things you never thought were happening.
Yeah, it's
I just,
powerful
yeah,
to not only are you discovering things, you're they're feeling heard, and I think that's really important. And I think it's critical that you actually do something with it, right? You can't just ask the questions and then ignore it, which I'm sure some companies end up doing, but you have to do something because then they feel heard, they feel respected, and part of something.
even if the answer is I can't do anything about it and here's why. Or there is a law that says we cannot do that thing. I mean, even if you're just explaining your thought process and you're addressing, they don't
Yeah,
need you to do the thing they want you to do. They need to understand why you're doing the thing you're doing and what your vision is behind that.
yeah,
Because you're the leader and
yeah.
they're there and they're getting a paycheck and they're putting their trust in you that way. They're going to trust your decisions. They just, again, you're adding that transparency level, like here's what we're doing and why.
Love that. Love that. Um, Chris, what's the future of work? Where is it going? Remote, hybrid, in person? There's a big push right now to go back to the office. A lot of companies are saying everybody's got to go back. What's your thought there? Where, or maybe do you have a crystal ball of where you think things are going?
Well, the pendulum has swung back. There's less remote work than there was, but there's still a remarkable amount more of remote and hybrid work than there was pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
So we have democratized work. We've given the average person a lot more flexible work options where we know people can do it. We have a process and structure. So if I have a kid who's sick on a Friday, like I can stay home and still work. I don't have to take a day off and I can
Mhm.
still help my kid who's sick. That's a pretty big improvement for the average worker to have that ability and that trust and all of that. So things are better there. There is also an incredible amount of companies that are choosing remote work, keeping remote work, using that or hybrid work as a strategy, but that's not a good headline. Nobody says, Tom's Plumbing decides to stay remote. Like nobody, that's not a headline you're going to read in your Apple news feed today, but you will read it if like, Bosch and Lom decides to go back. You'll read that because
Yeah.
that's something that's a headline. So
Yeah.
we're not hearing the other half. We're not hearing that story. So there's plenty of remote work jobs and all of that. Now, what happens in the future? Well, I guess it depends on how far out you want that crystal ball to look. There's probably going to be some large economic event and things that either going to, there's certainly a lot going on right in this moment with our stock market. Could there be a recession or something that happens that nudges things one way or the other a bit more? Sure. We went remote during a major recession to save money.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so
Good
that
point.
could be a strategy for companies. It could also be a way that they just get rid of all the remote people and there's less remote. We'll see, right? Even farther out, if you go really far with the advancements of AI, like at some point, do we have a universal basic income and do people not really need to work and not work in the same senses that they are now? Could we instead be basically helping in our communities and we get like a minimum salary and we just are like all writing poetry all day and walking around in togas and like helping each other out? But like, do we really do work like you think about it now? I mean, there's this possibility of that computers and AI can handle all of this like minutia of things happening that we don't really need people to do that. And if that happens, what does that mean?
Right.
There's no money being made. So what does that mean? I don't have the
That,
answer.
yeah.
Certainly science fiction has told us that we could all end up being a society where like we don't even remember the days when the computer wasn't running things and we
Yeah.
don't even know how to fix the computer because nobody ever learned, like who knows how far that could go.
Computer's fixing itself.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
another computer's fixing another computer. They're working on each other. Yeah, it's really wild to think. But if you would have asked somebody, 100 years ago about stuff that's happening today, they'd be like, never, never, no way, not possible.
Yeah.
So yeah. Um, All right. So let's shift gears. I got a couple last questions I want to ask you. What's a mistake that you've been made in the company, whatever, and how have you learned from it?
I talk about this a lot in my talks in my book. I made the mistake of thinking that I needed to be involved in all of these decisions, that things needed to come through me, through my brain, that
Mm,
somehow, I was going to improve things or help things, and my involvement was going to speed things up or make things better. When really what I needed to do is help people learn how to make the decisions that we needed them to make and understand enough about the organization they could make great decisions and get
yeah.
out of their way so they could make decisions faster and better. Because even if I'm right and I'm going to make the better decision every time, I'm still wildly slowing down the company by having to be the one to make the decision.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
them making the decision correctly 80% of the time, we still grew and did way better at that model than we did with everything coming through my brain.
Sure. That
And
makes
so
sense.
I was in this position of my mistake was believing that and believing that my people were not doing the right things and that the market was stopping me from growing and getting better. It was me getting in the
Mm.
way, right?
That's a
Of
humbling experience.
it is. And to realize when I got out of the way, I coach, I teach, I inspire, I do all the things to help them, but ultimately get out of the way and let them go and do their magic and be amazing people that they are. We always did better when we did that. And they
Yeah.
came to me when it was something really big that only I could solve. Sure. But I was out of their way 99% of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. I love that. What's your favorite book you can recommend other than your own?
Favorite book. I have quite a few favorites. So I'm going to give you two. I'm going to cheat. So if you want to go old school, I always reread every year How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think that that is just
Yep.
a fantastic reminder to all leaders every year about how you approach the world and how you talk and how you think about leading and managing. It's just a great reset. Like, can you imagine like not criticizing and not complaining today? Because they suggest not doing it ever. And it's a
Yeah.
hard thing to do, right? To never complain, to never criticize. I mean, I need that reminder every year. And the next one is The Art of Gathering. I always recommend that book. It really talks about how to create events and meetings and moments and parties. And anytime you bring people together, like how do you do that successfully and how do you do that in a way that is intentional and good? And often you heard me talk about meetings and all the different ones we have. I think when we bring people together and we do a really crappy job, that's just like a culture killer. It's a motivation killer. It
Big
just,
time.
right? And if you're not bringing people together and they're not like excited and high-fiving and coming away with energy and and instead they're walking away with frustration and apathy, it's because of how you curated that moment. And so that book is really, really good at helping you do that.
Yeah. That sounds like a fantastic book because how many times have you walked into a meeting or see a meeting on your calendar? You're like, oh, another meeting. Right. And if that's the case every time you look at the meetings and you're just like, oh my gosh, or your employees, like just like, oh, another meeting. Great. Like that's not what you want. That's a like you said, this is just a productivity killer right there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right, last question. Well, what are your three pillars of wealth creation?
Three pillars. Well, in probably no particular order. I think the pillar one is you have to really be highly focused on either some people might call it self-efficacy, some people might call it manifesting, but it is truly believing and focusing your energy that you can do the thing you want to do, and believing that you are that person. It's not, that I want to have the best company. I do have the best company, and I operate in that way that I have the best company and I have the best people. Like you have to truly believe the thing. And
Yeah.
there are people that believe if you manifest it, the universe is going to figure it out for you. And there's also the self-efficacy side of like, if just putting that energy in the world helps you be prepared for and create those situations where
Yeah.
you can do it. Wherever you are on that spectrum, I don't really care. But like, if you're not saying the words in some way and living the actions to be that thing that you want to be, but it's in the present tense. If you say, I want to be rich one day, you're never going to be
Yeah.
rich.
You're never going to do it.
You have to think about what it is. I am rich, and what it is to be rich, and what does that feel like, and what does that do? Like, you have to really think about those things for your mind to start programming and changing its behaviors and things and be able to make better decisions. If your goal really is to be rich, what does rich mean, and really thinking that
Yeah.
right through and all of
Yeah.
that. So that's pillar one. Pillar two is you need to be highly focused on what is working.
Hmm.
And I see a lot of businesses and a lot of entrepreneurs that I coach get stuck with shiny object syndrome. They're like, hey, we have this thing and we're making good money over here. Let's go try to do 10 other things that aren't related at all, 10 other ideas. And now I'm spending 90% of my time on these nine other ideas. And I'm leaving this thing over here that's the cash cow all alone.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an
Go do the
entrepreneur's.
thing you do well. Go 10x that
Yeah.
and stop doing all the shiny object stuff, please.
Yeah. I
Right?
hear you there.
And so that's usually like if you really want to have that wealth, if you want to do well, it's do more of what is working. I to say this another way, if you have two salespeople that are killing it and five that kind of make their quota, they're okay, and you got two or three that suck, what do you do? Most leaders I know, they go and they focus on the people
They
who
focus
aren't
on the
making their
ones.
quotas. They
Yep.
focus on the people that are doing okay. They leave the two alone over there. Don't mess with them. They're doing great. They're bringing 80% of our sales in. Just leave them alone. No, go get really curious as to why those two are killing it. What are they doing? What is their process? What do they focus on? Why are they successful? What is it about them? So that you can have them teach everybody else, so that we can learn from them, so that when we eventually, when those two people who suck leave, because they don't up level themselves, if they discover what the other two people are doing and they can level up, awesome. If they can't and they go away, well, now when I go to hire, I'm looking for these behaviors that the
Yeah.
top two have because I
Yeah.
understand what makes them tick. Right. So that's that positivity pillar we didn't talk about. It's focusing on what's working and doing more of that because what you focus on grows.
Yep.
And if
Yeah.
you
Love
focus
that.
on the negative, there's going to be more negative.
Yeah.
Final pillar is you have to have some really structured um, process around partnerships or networking. Like your ability and power to push your business forward is limited by the people you know and the people that you have in your network you're exposed to. The most successful people I know have incredible partnership programs, have incredible networks, and they're doing things intentionally to grow one of those two things. So depending on your business, partnerships might be the thing to do, or great networking might be the thing to do.
Yeah.
I had a partnership person and we built partnerships in the business, but like I did the networking stuff at my CEO level. Like that's what I was good at. But like my team was really good at building partnerships and integrations, and like we could really build that stuff out. Um, we weren't ever really humming and moving until we got the partnership thing figured out. Like that for us was the catalyst of, and again, I said, go do 10x of what you're good at. That's how you do 10x is by getting more partners and people who want to do what you need, what you're going to do, and have them expand through their network.
Yeah. Relationships, right? It's all about building those relationships.
Yep.
Sure. Chris, this has been really good. Appreciate your time and the insight you've been able to give us on the show. How can our listeners reach out to you, learn more about what you got going on, and then how can they get to your books as well?
My books are on Amazon, so Power of Company Culture, also remote work. You can find those there. My website, happy, there's lots of stuff there. I do a ton of stuff on TikTok and Reels. So if you hang out in one of those two places, there's stuff on YouTube as well. But if you do TikTok or Reels, find me there. I think it's Chris P. Dyer 7 on Instagram and at chrisdyer.com on TikTok. Also LinkedIn, happy to connect with anybody. I do post 3, 4 times a week, lots of content and education there. So if you hang out on LinkedIn, if you're not a TikToker, that's cool. Connect with me there, or send me a note if you need help. I'm happy to reach out, talk to anybody. I gave you that text number, and that will also get you my email. You can also just send me a note, Chris at chrisdyer.com.
Chris, again, really appreciate you. Appreciate the time, and you have a fantastic rest of the day.
Thanks for having me, Todd.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. I appreciate you being a loyal listener. I would love to have you go on to our Facebook page and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Go on to iTunes or wherever you listen and give us a rating and review. Don't forget to subscribe. Your rating and review just helps us push this out to more and more people and continue to grow our audience and hopefully positively affect a ton of people out there that really need this and want this. So the other thing I've got for you is a free ebook on my website. So go on to venturedproperties.com, and download our free ebook on real estate and on syndication. And I've got some data points in there, some really good stuff for you. So I'd love to have you take a look at that. It's free. I'm not expecting anything from it. And also, look, if you want some help in multifamily, want some help learning, growing, getting your business off the ground, I would love to talk to you about what it would look like to work with me potentially and see if that's a good fit. So you can go to coachwithdex.com and check that out, and we can definitely have a call. Thanks a lot for listening. You make it a fantastic rest of the day. I'll catch you on the next episode.